Hello, welcome to the Socially Unapologetic podcast. Today we are here with Dr. Diana Castleman. She's a naturopathic doctor who is certified with the Menopause Society, and I am so excited to have her here today.
Thanks, Brooke, for having me.
Of course. Okay, so all of my episodes start with a two truths and a lie. I always like to put everybody on
Mm,
the spot. So if you can give us two truths and a lie, we'll remember it for the whole entire episode. And then at the end, we'll go over it so our guests can kind of get to know you a bit. And then I will guess what I think.
okay. Wow, putting me on the spot,
I
right?
know.
Okay, so one is I was born in Romania and immigrated to Canada. Two is I used to eat bugs as a kid. And number three is that I love soccer and I am an avid soccer player.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So
Okay,
we will remember that for the end of the episode and then we will circle back to it.
perfect.
So let's jump right into it. And if you can tell us a bit about yourself, what your
hmm
specialty in your field, and kind of talk about your life and your journey to getting to become a
hmm
naturopathic doctor.
Yeah, so my journey really started. I think the first starting point was I was in my last year of university. I went to McMaster and I was facing some health concerns at the time that were just not being resolved through the medical system. And that was something that was really distressing for me at the time. And my boyfriend, who's actually now my husband, he suggested that I go see this naturopath. And I was in biology and psychology double major. It was obviously a very evidence-based program. I'd never heard what a naturopath was like in my life.
Yeah.
And I will be very honest, I was that person that I was like, I'm not gonna go see this witch doctor. Like, who is this person? Like, but honestly, I just got to the stage where I just wanted some support, some relief with my symptoms. So I decided to go. I booked that appointment. And that appointment changed my life. I got significantly better after 3 months of seeing this naturopath. I was, yeah, like I couldn't believe how much better I felt. And literally, so I was graduating soon. And so I looked up, like, I was like, what is naturopathic medicine? Like, how do you become a naturopath? I was in a science program already. I really knew I wanted to be in healthcare. So it was perfect. I feel like it aligned with a lot of my vision and goals of what I wanted to do with my life. So I literally applied that year and then I started school the next year. Yeah.
So was
Yeah.
being in the medical, so you said like, was being in the medical field, like, was it a doctor? Like, where did you kind of see yourself before you found the naturopath?
Yeah, great question. So I was doing research at the time. I was working, I was like doing my thesis in a lab and actually loved research. I thought that that was going to be the path more that I was going to go, like master's PhD route. And I had already been working at a lab. I signed on to do a year. And so I still ended up doing that while I was waiting to get into naturopathic medicine. But yeah, I actually thought it was going to go more that route. I was in the field of neuroscience research. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. And then can you tell us,
hmm
once you became a naturopath, like
Yeah.
the doctor, what made you want to specialize in menopause and kind of
hmm
like helping women empower
Yeah.
themselves through that period of their life?
Yeah. 100%. So I always knew I wanted to do something in women's health, like especially with my experience, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like, there's so much we can do to help support women. But really the menopause focus came about because around the time that I was then graduating, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine here in Toronto, I was actually talking to my mom about her, experience and what she was going through. And of course, when we have loved ones in our family that are going through things, we want to help support them. And when I actually sat down and then again I had the clinical research skills to look into solutions and options there, and I actually couldn't believe how big of a world was out there in terms of menopause and research, but we never learned it in school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's actually not part of medical school curriculum either. I do think that's going to change. It's
Hmm.
looking but we know change takes time, right?
Yeah.
So I just couldn't believe that yeah, at that time, like no one was really talking about it. And I was like, wow, there's actually so much support here for women. And she's honestly the biggest driver for me doing what I do today. And her and my aunt, who I'm really close with, just wanting them to have the best possible health and care through their journey, really inspired me to pretty much focus my entire practice for that population. And just because I know there's actually so much we can do to help support these women.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's so important, and especially for people that listen to my podcast, like entrepreneurs and women in business and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
in the social media world, like it's people never talk about it. You don't talk about that side. Like there
Hmm.
could be business owners, women that are going through these periods of their life and they don't feel supported,
Yes.
and they're the stress that's
Hmm.
coming and all of that kind of builds into it. So I think it's so important that we have you here
Yeah.
today and like talking to you because
Mhm.
it's not a topic that everybody talks about. It's not something that's like
Mhm.
it's taboo on the internet. Like it's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um
And it's changed for the positive, I would say, definitely since, the pandemic. I feel like we now use that as a
yeah.
reference, right? It's like
Yeah.
pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic. But it's true. In the past 5 years, these conversations are happening more, which is fantastic. We have more people online talking about it on social media and things like that, which is amazing. Like I think that's
Mhm.
awesome that we're opening up the conversation. Now with anything where we're focusing on bringing the conversation to the forefront, there can also be misinformation, of
Yeah.
course. So it's about making sure that you feel heard, you feel supported, then knowing who to turn to support you during this time. But yeah, I really see our role, or my role, at least as a naturopathic doctor, really complementary to my patients' care, right? So again, sometimes there's this stigma with what we do of like we're placing what your family doctor's doing, and that's not at all it,
Mhm.
right? We're really working together because we all offer a certain expertise, right, that we can bring to the table. And I would say the biggest thing that my patients love when they come to see me is the time we get to spend together, right?
Mhm.
So in that initial visit, we can spend an hour and a half together. That's a lot of time that we can really talk about the education. They can feel informed, they can know all their options, right? That's really valuable.
Yeah, and they can feel heard where sometimes when in the medical world in itself you may not feel heard with what's going on. Like if you have something going on with your body or you're like everybody's in their head about things and you may feel a certain way and you just want to be
Hmm.
heard. You want to be seen of what you feel and kind of have that
Hmm.
solution. So I love that.
Hmm.
How do you use social media to build your clientele and build your business? How did that kind of look like for you?
Great question. I am definitely not an expert at social media. I try my best to show up. To be honest, when I first created so when I say social media, I don't have TikTok.
Yeah.
I have Instagram, and that's, I would say, the most active platform that I'm on. I honestly started to really create a community. Like I was just looking to connect with other women, hear their experiences, really that's all I was looking for, to create a community. And I think social media is great for that.
Mhm.
And then I would say it's really over the years has gotten to be a really awesome place where I can also share resources, right? Like educational content, which I think is amazing. It gives, my patients, or even if they're not my patients, like people a place to land where they can feel like we can form a trusted relationship. I think it can be a great tool for sure. And I always say it's also like, what are we doing outside the platform as well
Mhm.
is even more important, right? I think it can be a great connecting tool. But to answer your question, yeah, use it as a way of connection, creating community.
Yeah, and I also think
Yeah.
it's good too that you show the like your business side, but like in what you do in that informational side, but also like telling people what like you do on the outside. Like what do you do to keep
Right.
yourself
Yeah.
healthy and like disconnecting like you're just that their naturopath
Yeah.
doctor.
True.
It's like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
like if you play sports or you're like active and you're running and like the gym and like kind of that healthy
Hmm.
lifestyle to kind of help people feel connected to you,
Hmm.
or if they're coming to an
Yeah.
appointment with you. I always tell my clients like it's so important to like show on social media that like people can feel safe when they come to you, so they almost
Hmm.
get to like know you before they get to sit down with you and feel that
Yes.
comfortability.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also nowadays, I feel like everyone's going to Google who they're coming to see,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, you definitely, people do research for sure
Yeah.
before coming to see you. Yeah.
What is a time in your career that you felt like defeated in the business aspect or like the entrepreneur, the business side of it?
Defeated. Oh. um, so yeah, I don't know if maybe I would use this example to say it felt defeated, but I think one of the hardships
Yeah.
of entrepreneurship is this word balance, which I don't love, but
Yeah.
it's that idea of, again, you obviously care so much, you give so much of your time to patients, and then it's about how do you recharge from that. Like, it's a lot of giving. I will say I've improved over the years. I'm not amazing at it, but I've gotten better. I I do. I honestly feel like when you're so passionate about something, right? You feel like you think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Even if when I'm not in clinic, I'm always thinking about, okay, because that's the thing with being in this field. I think one thing I'm really take to heart and take so seriously is that I want to stay up to date with the
Hmm.
research, right? And so if I'm not in clinic seeing patients one on one, then I'm using that off time to make sure I'm reading the research studies, make sure I'm staying up to date there. And that's a lot of time as well. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, when you're writing medical letters and prescriptions and all the things. So I haven't found that, yeah, balance, so to speak, yet. I'm, you know, finding my way there. I will say one of the biggest things though that has helped me throughout this journey is my mindset.
Hmm.
So really, I one of the biggest, I think, investments that I made that really made the biggest difference in my business is working with a mindset coach. I think that was the best thing I did, because we all have certain limiting beliefs, that we have grown up with, that we have. And when you see things a certain way, it does impact, right? How you
Yeah.
feel about that
Hmm.
thing. So for me, working with a coach on that aspect helped a ton. For example, like, I'll give you an example. One limiting belief that I had was that if something wasn't a struggle, like if I wasn't working so hard for it and it felt so difficult, then it wasn't like essentially worth it. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't working hard enough,
Hmm.
right? And so I really had to overcome that. And that was actually all through mindset work, because it was just a limiting belief that I had. I didn't even, create that space for miracles to happen,
Yeah.
so to speak. So, yeah, things like that really helped me along my journey of, again, I think having that drive and motivation, to help women wasn't necessarily the thing that I struggled with. It was more like, how do I actually take pause and take breaks and
Yeah.
take time to actually rest,
Yeah.
really, like, and I think that a lot of us entrepreneurs struggle with that piece.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing
Yeah.
that all my guests, we all just like can agree that the biggest thing is like that time and that balance and that time management, and like because it's our businesses and because we love what we do so much, it feels like
Hmm.
you never shut your brain off. There's never a time where you're like, I'm
Hmm.
always thinking what's next, what's next, what's next, and you never just like sit and almost like
Hmm.
sit in what you've done already and like look back and be like,
Hmm.
I've done enough and I can take that break and I can
Yes.
take that
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I read a quote somewhere, and I can't remember who it is, but it was something along the lines of, you trade your 9 to 5 job for 24 hours,
Yeah.
like a day job, right?
Yeah.
Because it almost, like I said, feels that way
Yeah.
sometimes, where I feel like even harder to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
There's no like hard cutoff line.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is, but you have to create it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true. So I want to talk about a bit about your Midlife Thrive Academy and how you kind of built that.
Mm,
And like I know you have wait lists and stuff now. So how have you kind of built
hmm.
that community side of it? Because obviously as a doctor, you can't see every single person that wants to be seen always, right? Like there's
Hmm.
appointments and people may not have coverage. So like how did you kind of build this
Right.
community?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, it's been wonderful to see my practice grow. It's really grown organically, a lot of it, which is amazing. A lot of it, um, honestly, is referral based, which has been amazing. I always say, and I'm sure you feel this too, when you, again, just really work to create an environment where people not only feel heard, but they see outcomes and they see results, like they're going to be so happy to refer other, friends or
Mhm.
family to you as well, which has been really nice. And that's really what it's been like for me to now get to the stage where, yes, I do have a wait list, which is amazing. I want to help as many, women as I can. And it honestly was just my patients just referring their family and friends. So that feels awesome. I
Yeah.
love, love, love that aspect of what I do. I even in the foreseeable future, I can never see, leaving one-on-one care. I honestly love it. I think
Yeah.
having that intimate, or just, yeah, that one-on-one time to get to the root cause of things and help explain and educate is something I love. The Midlife Thrive Academy is an online program that I started. And the reason really was for this. So with my regulation, I can only see patients one-on-one in Ontario. So I can't see anyone outside of the province. And so with social media, I actually had a lot of women reaching out to me who were outside of province or like the States,
Mhm.
and I couldn't necessarily see them one on one, but they were looking for that education piece. So that's really where Midlife Thrive Academy was born, where again, you don't have to be limited to Ontario, right? Anyone can join virtually, and it's a full education program. We go through everything from yes, things like, menopause hormone therapy, but also about how to thrive in terms of like everything you need to know about bone health and cardiovascular health and brain health. And we tie all those pieces together so that they can really thrive during this time. And then looking at their health, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And so I love it. It's a program that it's near and dear to my heart, but that's really how it got started was just people reaching out to me being like, do you have anything else, that you can offer outside one-on-one care.
And I love that because
Yeah.
I think that that's the power of social media and marketing in
Yes.
itself. And I think in the
Yeah.
medical world, obviously now more than before, but a lot of doctors never had those social media platforms or they never like,
Correct.
so they never,
Mhm.
you didn't have that access. So I think it's amazing now that that's a way that people, because like I know, like for myself, like benefits, like owning a business, I don't like pay into benefits. So it's like to see
Right.
a doctor, I'm paying for that out of my pocket. So it's like something like this where you can just like, you can have that knowledge, I think is really
Mhm.
accessible for everybody, which is really amazing.
Yeah. Mhm. Exactly.
What does success mean to you? I always love to ask all my guests this because I think everybody has a different definition of success. But what is
Mhm.
that definition of success for you?
Whenever I think of success, I think of freedom. Uh, yeah, so I think to your point, it can be many different definitions, but I think about, if I think about like my business specifically, success is having the impact that I have with the patients in my office. Yes, that's a huge, huge part of it for sure, because I generally do care and want these women to feel their absolute best. And then if I think about on the personal side, how that, bleeds into my personal side, I think of freedom. How can it give me the freedom, which again, I'm still working on to, yeah, live the life that I want to live, whatever that is. Like, for example, for some people, freedom could be like having a slow morning, having a morning coffee with your significant other and enjoying that time together, right? Freedom could be having X amount of vacations a year. It could be anything for everyone. So I don't think there's a strict definition there, but I think of impact and I think of freedom. That's
Yeah,
what success is to me. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so powerful.
Mhm.
I think every person that I've asked on my podcast, it's always just like that being able to do what I want, like being able to kind of
Yes.
wake up
Yeah.
and have that routine. And I like that when I ask this question, it's never about like money. It's never about like because
Mhm.
that's not what's important. It's like the
Mhm.
mindset and like how you feel. And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, exactly.
What is one piece of advice you would give somebody who's like sitting on a dream and they're not really sure where to start with the business
Mm.
world?
I love this question. When you said that, one of the first things that came to mind is something that my coach had said to me. And she said, you'll be given the opportunity to have the thing that you want before you're ever ready.
Mhm.
And I think we can look at so many examples. Like, I know for myself, I can think of so many examples in my life where that's so true, where we feel maybe inadequate or not good enough. And I would say to that person, to anyone listening, that no one is actually ever fully ready before they dive in. So there's always going to be, something else that we think of, like, oh, maybe I need to do this before I launch this thing or before I
Yeah.
go ahead and do this thing. And I don't think there's ever this place where you're ever fully ready. You just have to go for it.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
think there's never a certain recipe to starting a business or starting where to go. You
Hmm.
you learn as you go, and I think it's impactful for people to hear. Like there multiple people always saying that in business owners, there's never a
Hmm.
time that you're going to sit there and be like, now I'm ready. Like you
Exactly.
just have to do
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What makes you most fulfilled in your day to day? So obviously you said a few times like the one on one
Hmm.
with your
Yeah.
clients. So what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I think, again, when we have our follow-ups and then I see them doing so well, and it really does when people say that keeps you going, it really does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's obviously hardships
Mm.
to entrepreneurship and what we do for sure. But having those visits and knowing that you have made, such an impact in their life. So, from my perspective, I'm helping them with their health, but then that bleeds into so many aspects of their life to now be
Yeah.
able to do the things that they weren't able to do before. There's just, yeah, there's no better feeling for me. I think sometimes I can't even put words to it of what it feels like, but it truly is something that's why I was saying, like, I don't think I could ever get rid of one-on-one care
Yeah.
because it does fulfill me in so many ways.
And your cup needs to be full, right? So like if people are like you get that
Hmm.
fulfillment from your job, you're able to go into it every day like with that full cup and being
Exactly.
able to give that to
Yeah,
your patients.
exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that. Who is
Yeah.
your biggest inspiration when it comes to business? I always love to ask this and just kind of get people to give some like whether it's
Yeah.
podcasters or whether it's like other entrepreneurs or whatever that may be.
Hmm.
Who would be your biggest inspiration?
Well, I think right now, probably my coach is coming to mind
Yeah.
just because I have worked with her. Her name is Hina Khan. She's actually based here in Toronto, and she's definitely a massive inspiration for me. And again, I think actually I've referred, my own clients and patients to her as well, because it's like I said, I think when you can also have a different mindset and see things in a different way, like I've seen it in my own life of how much it's benefited me. So I would say she's my biggest inspiration.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I also feel like your mindset is also connected to the body. Like if you have that toxic
Hmm.
mindset or if you're in that negative space all the
Exactly.
time, it affects your
Hmm.
body. But when your mind feels good, your
100%.
body feels good.
Exactly. You nailed it.
I love that. Okay, Diana, we are going to circle back to the two truths and one lie. So if you want to, if you remember them, if you can restate them, and then I will
Oh, yes.
guess.
The first was that I was born in Romania, immigrated to Canada. The second was that I eat bugs, or excuse me, not eat bugs now. I used to eat bugs as a kid. And number three was that I love soccer and I'm an avid soccer player.
Okay. I'm gonna guess the eating bugs as a kid is the lie.
That's actually true.
Okay, so
Fun fact.
were
Yes.
were you not born in Romania? Was that what it was?
I was born in Romania.
Okay.
Yeah. And I immigrated to Canada. So those were the two truths.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
don't like soccer?
So it's not that I don't, but I'm definitely not an avid soccer
Okay,
player.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, well, I just love to do that little game at the end just so people can kind of get
That's
to know
really
you
fun.
in a different way. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us on Socially Unapologetic. It was so great to hear from you and get that
Thank you
insight.
for having me.